Also, read these. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lifeline. My name is Alex, and this channel is designed to inspire you to let your future expand and to find success. Today, we are going over 3 more of my most favorite success-related books that you need to read this year. If you missed the previous video, I'll link it somewhere so that you can see the first 3 books. Okay, and just like last video, I'm going to start off with 2 honorable mentions. Just because they are honorable mentions does not mean that they are any less quality than the 3 books we're going to talk about later on. In fact, if you haven't read these honorable mentions at all, then these should be the first 2 books you read. These are just so very mainstream and so well known that I didn't want to put them on the list today. So without further ado, our 2 honorable mentions today are Influence. Influence by Robert Cialdini and The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Now these are 2 classic success-related books. The Power of Habit is a lot about what we talk about here at Lifeline, which is changing your unproductive habits into productive ones, such as reading. And Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. This is an absolute great book just about how to be more persuasive and how people naturally operate. And if you are going to try to make the most of yourself, you need to understand the complex social landscape that we all live in. So these are 2 great, very worthy honorable mentions. Again, if you haven't read these, get on them first. Okay, our first book on our top 3 list of success-related books that you need to read this year, part 2, is actually On the Shortness of Life. Life is Long If You Know How to Use It by Seneca. Who is Seneca, you ask? Seneca is an ancient Roman philosopher, and he's a bit nihilistic, perhaps, but even though, despite this book its little size, it is very profoundly moving. And it's sort of an entire perspective and paradigm change. And it's very broad scope, and it talks about sort of how to live, what living really is, purpose, how to be more on your game. And this was a really big change for me, and I think it will be for you as well. So definitely recommend checking it out. This needs to be the #1 book of our second 3 that you're going to read this year. And our second book on the list is, yes, 50 Scientifically Proven Ways to Be Persuasive. A lot of authors by Noah Goldstein, Steve Martin, and the classic Robert Cialdini. Shout out if you remember him from just a minute ago about the Influence book. Now, I actually consider Yes to be more of almost like a sequel to Influence, except much more in depth, much more practical. And that's what I really like about this book. The researchers did 50 different experiments, all based on these different biases that we have. And it helps you to learn how to be more persuasive, not only with other people, but also with yourself. Which, as we've talked about before, navigating the social landscape as humans, you need to know how to do that. And this helps you understand that process very, very well. So definitely a must read. And our third and final book on the list is How We Decide by Jonah Lehrer. Now this book is so very interesting because it takes a neuroscience approach at exactly why we make the decisions that we make. And if you're trying to build new goals, achieve new habits, then you really should understand biologically why you're making good decisions and why you're making bad decisions. And this book will really help to give you a baseline introduction to that. And it's very good, very, very insightful. I found it to be one of the best books I read in the past couple of years. So go ahead and check that out as well. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the top 3 books that you need to be reading this year, part 2. Now do me a favor and go ahead and leave me a comment down below and tell me what book I should be reading next. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you next video. Knowledge, 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 mushroom, mushroom.